UAB incident. We talked about it a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
What in the world happened?
Is, the big word in all caps is sad, right? And then subtext underneath after that, strange. It was got to the stadium at 11:15, ran into one of our, production guys, like a local crew guy outside the truck, and he said there had been an incident at the facility about an hour earlier, and got to the booth and kind of wanted to. There's so much rumors and stuff, we know that out there. And I got to the booth, I checked online, there was a story, but I saw UAB support staff guys on the field. So I said, they're going to know. And so I just walked down, and I'm not trying to break any news. That's what I told these guys. I said, I'm here with ESPN to call the game. I want to celebrate the game. Just looking for context and like accurate information, like what happened this morning. And it was interesting because those support staff guys are an extension of the team, because those guys were so disappointed and sad, and they were like, one of our teammates stabbed the other, and I really was taken back, obviously. And then my next question is, everybody okay? They said yes. And then the third question after that was, is this going to affect the game? If any of these guys play? And they said no. So we went back up to the television booth, and it was sort of like, okay, we communicate with people at ESPN. How do we approach this? Because again, this is not 60 Minutes. That's or ESPN
Right.
News Arm. We're here to call a game, and you don't want to start talking about an incident where families are watching at home and they're not sure if their relatives were involved. So it was really dicey the way we wanted to handle it. We had to be delicate, right? We didn't want it to get dicey. So their corporate communications people came in with their sports information director right before the game and really showed us that, aside from the guys that were involved physically, there were 6 or 7 guys on their defensive front who were not going to be available because they saw it. It was traumatic. And, some of the things I'll gloss over quickly so we can get to other stuff, obviously. But, it was a scary, scary scene in their football facility that morning. The victim, was seriously hurt and terrified, thought they were going to die, because they're in shock and they're asking people, hey, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to die? And so there's players around seeing this. And this was all conveyed to me by somebody who was inside the building. So, we communicate with people at ESPN, and they coach us up really well on how to handle it. And, I was with Forrest Connolly. He was the analyst. And lucky for me, Forrest is a 15-year veteran calling these games. So he really helped me just sort of, hey, we're just going to stick to the facts, do what they say. Anything you say, I'll follow you, man. Don't you worry. You're not alone on this. And so we opened the game, talked about the football, talked about the incident, gave it, I think, the attention and the respect, and the empathy that it deserved. And then we were on to football. But, it was sad because, and James knows this, you go to these games and you meet with the coaching staff the day before. We were at the walkthrough. Reportedly, something happened at the walkthrough that bubbled over to Saturday. So we were at the walkthrough and didn't notice anything. We met with Alex Mortenson's UAB's head coach, amazing guy. So you're just pulling for this team in this situation, and it was just sad and strange. And I'm really happy that nobody was. It seems like everybody's going to be okay. The alleged attacker is being charged with attempted murder. You can find that online right now. So it was a rough situation, and I don't think it's representative of that football program or the coaching staff or certainly the people we worked with there or the city of Birmingham. But, it's it was a rough deal. I'd never had a game happen like that. That was very strange and very sad.
Were you surprised they played the game?
Yeah, I was. But Forrest said to me right away, again, that's why I love working with guys that have that much skin in the game and have been around for that long. Forrest said it's senior day. They're going to play. And that's what he said before we heard anything. And it's exactly what the case was. Alex Mortensen said in his post-game press conference, they voted, the team voted, and they said they wanted to play. One thing that was encouraging were there were a couple guys who are really good who were crossed out because of the trauma of the situation, and then they showed up and did play. So in the first quarter, their SID was like, hey, you had Eamon Smalls crossed off, who, by the way, James, you're going to love this dude if he plays. He's big, he's fast. People call him Biggie Smalls. Really like a fun thing, you know. And he played, and he made a couple plays. So guys who were actually probably right there and saw it, you know, found whatever they needed to find to go on and play. And I'm sure they're going to be happy they made that decision, you know. But it was nice to see at least a little bit of, you know, life and moving forward. Can't even imagine what those guys are going through.
Man, my goodness. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
There's also a lot to unpack down at Baylor. So Dave Aranda is going to be back next season. Saw him talking at his press conference about the frustration and the disconnect within the fan base, and that just felt very un-Dave-like for him to address that and say that, you know, maybe I should have been opening up more to people around me, and he said I kept the media away too much. Just what are your thoughts on the whole Dave Aranda situation? Anything you can add in from the Baylor family?
Yeah, well, you know, I think Dave is right about that, because unfortunately what they're moving towards here in Baylor, or in Waco, I should say, at Baylor, is there's a concern among the fan base that apathy. You know, you start hearing that word and it's like, oof, that's almost like a third rail. I really am. I feel for the athletic department and the school, because they were put in an untenable situation. You know, I have gotten a chance to. Baylor was instrumental in the rise of my career, and I have a lot of loyalty, and I'm still very connected to people over there. I think Mack Rhoades is an exceptional person. I think some stuff happened in his life that was way out of character, and that led to the separation between he and the university at a time where the university needed to make some big decisions. And, you know, I know you guys are familiar. I talked last week with Shahan Jayaraja, right, from CBS Sports, just an amazing college football writer. And on Thursday, I said, what do you think about the timing of this situation? Will Baylor have the ability to go and grab one of these, you know, higher profile head coaches during this coaching cycle if they want to make a change? And he said to me, hey, I don't believe they're going to have the time, because I think the separation of the athletic director and the school is going to take so long, you know, with all the bureaucracy and everything that goes into that, you know, they won't have time. Well, he was overall right, because at the end of the day, they reached that separation last Thursday. So I think myself and a lot of people around the football program thought, okay, well, this means they're going to move swiftly, hire an AD, and hire a new head coach. That's not what happened. And I think that the more and more I thought about what Shahan said, the more and more I leaned on some of my sources in administration, in big-time college sports. You just can't make changes like that. You can't be irresponsible. You can't be, quote-unquote, air quotes, swift, because hiring an athletic director is not like going out to the grocery store and picking up a quart of milk. You know, you've got to go through channels and channels and channels and channels, and do they want to come? Maybe they don't want to come. So Linda Livingstone, the president of the school, last Friday puts out a statement, hey, we're going to keep Dave Aranda. And I really believe it was the most prudent option for this school. If you want to blame anyone, and I don't want to blame this guy, because I truly believe he was suffering from the human condition, and I believe Mack Rhoades will make an amazing comeback somewhere. I do. But if you want to blame anyone for the situation, it's the transgressions of Mack Rhoades, the former athletic director, that put this school and the university and Dr. Linda Livingstone in a situation that absolutely stinks, man. I mean, and now everybody's like, well, like people are upset with her. And look, Dave can still coach his rear end off too. And they have a top 30 recruiting class. So we'll have to see. And to James, what you alluded to, this is a long answer, but Dave is pretty open to self-evolution and to checking himself out and saying, where can I improve? And I believe he knows that he's got to get a little more connected with the media and give people a little bit more who follow this team.
Yeah, he's very self-reflective, but in some ways it feels like he overcorrects in some of that self-reflection at times. And I think one of those would be the media part. You know, like there was a time where his first couple of years he was very open with the media, and then maybe he was too open, so he pushed back, and it's like he just overcorrects in one way. So let's go back to the apathy piece, which I agree with. And I certainly feel it from friends of mine that are Baylor fans, not all of them, but some of them. How much damage does this do to the fan base, which in turn does damage, I would think, overall to the team based on money and NIL and everything else?
I think you have to play the games. I mean, that's a loaded question, right? Because
yeah,
I'm it worries me to think that next year Baylor will begin the season with like people not going to games to make a statement. But that's possible, right? I mean, that is possible. I think if your team wins, Baylor's a fickle place with fans. I think they will all come to the games if it's a winning product. I definitely don't think they'll get a head start next year. And oh, by the way, you're playing Texas Tech next year, playing BYU next year. You're going to have to go on the road to play Auburn. So this is not like it's going to be a tougher schedule next year than it was this year. And this year is pretty tough to start things off. So you really do want to come loaded for bear, no pun intended. But they're going to have to, time takes time too. It's a long off season. Things can happen that can drum up interest. Time does heal a little bit. But right now it's not in a great spot because, you react to the fact that, oh my God, we're going to have meatloaf for the 7th straight night. We've been having meatloaf over here a lot. You keep getting served meatloaf as a fan base. You're like, we're good.
Yeah, on the meatloaf.
But here we go. We got meatloaf again, right? And so I think that right now there's a reaction to that. And then you go out and you get your doors blown off in Tucson. That doesn't help. I'm surprised to see. I think they're a 2.5-point favorite this Friday or this Saturday against Houston, which was a surprise to me. But I don't know a whole lot about that stuff, anyways. It turns out usually at the end of it all.
Pete, the media piece is interesting because Baylor. We cover all 16 schools here on Big 12 today, and Baylor's a program that is very closed off media-wise. No coaches, no players, no access. How do the players respond to that, as far as you can tell? And how do the players respond to Dave Aranda? Like, I think there's this narrative that's being built that, well, the players love Dave Aranda, they love coaching, or they love playing for him and this staff. Do you get that same sense that the players are all in? Like, because I ask, retention's going to be big for this staff for next year too.
Yeah, retention is going to be big, but like, there's no way you're going to retain Sawyer Robertson, right? Like, he's gone. And so there are a lot of key components to what you touched on, James, that like, yeah, you do have to work to retain a lot of really good players. And I think that they hope that the recruiting class that's coming in will, excite the existing roster. Also, you do have like, for Dave, as much as he can be viewed as a real steady guy and maybe not as charismatic, Keenan Hall, Dallas Baker, Matt Pallage, they have guys on the staff who are like super excitable and great recruiters. Like Keenan Hall is the guy with the "We Pay Players" shirt. Like the running backs coach who really is a heck of a recruiter all over the country, but especially in Texas. And I think some of the fear is that those dudes could possibly use this 1 year to leave the program, right? The coaching staff, right? Because you don't want to leave as the ship is quote unquote sinking. You also have to consider the fact that the players do love Dave, and there's a connection there. There's Sawyer Robertson is a particular kind of guy, and so is Josh Cameron. But those guys both had offers, big money to go other places in the offseason, and they chose to stay and play for Dave Aranda. It's not as closed off as you, and I get what you're saying. They're not as closed off. The players aren't like the administration over there. They want us to experience the full-on Baylor thing, right? But Dave is so like. Here's a great example. When Dave won the Sugar Bowl and the team won the Big 12 championship, I heard him say, I had their first game after that. It was like Albany Baylor in, I don't know, I guess it was 2022 or 2022, I guess. And he had talked about how that offseason, where, you're on the banquet circuit and you're getting all the awards, was probably one of the most uncomfortable times of his life, right? Like, success and what came with it was just as uncomfortable as defeat and what comes with it. You have to march out there and you have to, I think he is almost more comfortable standing up and taking the bullets than standing up and taking all the affection and the love. That's just not the kind of guy he is. So that is a window into the head coach we're dealing with. And I think that makes the job people and the athletic department at Baylor more difficult because you're like, get out there. Like, this is the last thing I'll say on this. Like, if Baylor had a coach, and I'm not saying they should bring this guy back, but like, if you have a Matt Rule that's going to stand in front of the media, give a little rah-rah, give a little bit of their personality, show some vulnerability, like, at least the fans and the media can like, oh, okay, like, this guy, he cares. Like, the pilot light's on, like, we can affect him. It's like, and we've all been there, guys. You're in a relationship with a partner and she's telling you, you're not giving me what I need. Like, you're not expressing yourself. I need more of the expression from you. How are you feeling? Like, and you're like, well, that's just not my personality. But they want that, and they want to see a reaction out of you, and that's kind of what love is sometimes. And I think the folks at Baylor on the other end sort of feel cut off sometimes. But that's just who this dude is.
Really good stuff, Pete. Man, a lot to go over there. We appreciate your time. Big 12 Studios, ESPN play-by-play, NBC play-by-play. We're going to talk about your Baylor basketball team that got a huge win last night.
Huge.
Coming up next, beating Creighton 81-74. Always great to see you, buddy.
Yo, happy Thanksgiving, fellas. Keep up the awesome work. I appreciate y'all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, Taman. Welcome, Taman. I saw you at Media Days, but you're the man, dude. I'll see you soon.
Thank you much.
Take care.
Appreciate you guys.
Pete Sousa from Big 12 Studios, Inside the 12, ESPN, NBC, play-by-play announcer joining